Does it ever feel like your thoughts are working against you? Like, no matter what you do, negativity keeps creeping in, anxiety, self-doubt, stress. It's relentless, right? But what if I told you there was a way to master your mind? To stay calm and clear, no matter how chaotic life gets. Welcome to the wisdom of Stoicism, a 2,000-year-old philosophy with powerful secrets for taking control of your thoughts and turning negativity into strength. Stoicism teaches us that the key to peace of mind doesn't lie in changing the world around us, but in how we choose to react to it. In today's video, I'm sharing 7 life-changing Stoic principles that will help you conquer negative thinking, find clarity, and take back control of your mind. Ready to transform your mindset? Let's dive into the Stoic mindset and start changing the way you think today. Number 1, don't take things personally. In Stoic philosophy, external events are viewed as neutral, they're neither inherently good nor bad. It's our judgments of those events that create our emotional experiences. This is captured in Epictetus' core idea: it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When someone criticizes you or treats you unfairly, it can feel like a personal attack. But Stoicism teaches that people's actions are influenced by their own beliefs, frustrations, and perspectives. These actions, whether positive or negative, are often more about them than about you. For instance, if someone cuts you off in traffic, it's not necessarily a reflection of your worth or actions, it could be due to their stress or distractions. Taking things personally often stems from an overinflated sense of self-importance. This is a trap that keeps us emotionally enslaved, because it allows others' opinions and actions to control how we feel. To be truly free, we must recognize that we cannot control other people's behavior, but we can control our reactions to them. Now, let's talk about the psychological mechanism behind this. When we take things personally, we're engaging in cognitive distortions, particularly personalization, where we assume that others' actions are about us. This leads to feelings of hurt, anger, or resentment. For example, when a colleague overlooks your contribution to a project, you might feel personally slighted, thinking, they don't appreciate me. However, this is a distorted interpretation. By recognizing that the colleague's actions are more about their perspective, you can detach from the emotional sting. Taking things personally also reinforces a victim mentality, where we feel powerless over our emotions. Stoicism suggests that we take ownership of our reactions. When we shift from the belief that, they hurt me, to, I choose how I respond, we regain control over our emotional life. Practical action: step back and reflect. When you feel offended, ask yourself, is this truly about me, or is this a projection of their own struggles? Shift focus to self-awareness. Practice observing your emotional reaction without judgment. Realize that emotions like anger or frustration are temporary, and you have the choice not to let them dominate your thoughts. Practice rational detachment. Instead of internalizing others' actions, remind yourself that the behavior is part of their journey, not a judgment of you. By recognizing that taking things personally is a choice, you can stop giving others the power to dictate your emotional state. Number 2, use the view from above technique. The view from above is a visualization technique that encourages us to adopt a cosmic perspective. This perspective helps us step outside of the narrow, ego-driven view of our lives and see ourselves as part of a much larger, interconnected world. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reflected on how small our individual problems are in comparison to the vastness of the universe and the eternal flow of time. This technique is particularly effective in helping us perspective shift during stressful situations. When we are overwhelmed with the intensity of daily struggles, it's easy to fall into the trap of seeing them as overwhelmingly important. But if we can mentally zoom out, we realize that most of our challenges are temporary and relatively insignificant in the grand scheme of life. The view from above encourages humility. It teaches us that we are just one small part of a much larger whole, which can foster perspective, calm, and acceptance. It also enables us to step out of the egocentric mindset that amplifies our individual problems and leads to negative thinking. Now, let's talk about the psychological mechanism behind this. Psychologically, we're wired to view ourselves as the center of our universe, often leading to self-absorption. When we are stressed, anxious, or upset, it can feel like the world revolves around our personal troubles. The view from above helps break this cycle by creating cognitive distance from the situation, allowing us to see it for what it truly is, just a moment in time, rather than an existential crisis. This reframing technique shifts our mindset from catastrophic thinking, where every problem feels life-altering, to rational perspective, where challenges are placed in context. Practical action. Take a mental step back. Imagine yourself viewing your current life situation from a high vantage point, or even from space. How do your problems appear from this broader view? Reframe the situation. Ask, how important will this issue seem in 5 years? Or even 5 months? Cultivate acceptance. Realize that all things are temporary and part of the larger unfolding of life, helping you feel more at peace with the moment. The view from above is a great tool to gain calm perspective, especially when emotions are running high, enabling you to handle stress and anxiety more effectively. Number 3. Separate yourself from your emotions. While Stoicism doesn't advocate for emotionlessness, it does promote emotional detachment in the sense that we should not allow our emotions to define us. Epictetus emphasized that emotions are simply responses to judgments we make about the world, and we are capable of changing our emotional reactions by changing our judgments. The Stoic approach to emotions is about seeing them as temporary, subjective experiences that arise due to our interpretations, rather than facts or truths. By practicing emotional detachment, we learn to observe our emotions without identifying with them. We are not our feelings, they are simply passing reactions that do not have to dictate our behavior. For example, you may feel anger or sadness in response to a difficult situation, but that feeling is not a permanent reflection of who you are. The Stoics encourage us to embrace rational thinking and to question the validity of these emotions by examining the judgments behind them. Is the situation really as bad as we perceive it to be? Are we overreacting? Now, let's talk about the psychological mechanism behind this. Negative emotions often arise from cognitive distortions, distorted thinking patterns that exaggerate the gravity of the situation. By distancing ourselves from our emotions, we can recognize that our feelings are not facts, but responses to our interpretations of reality. The psychological term, cognitive reframing, closely aligns with this Stoic principle. By changing the way we interpret and judge a situation, we can transform our emotional experience, leading to more balanced, rational responses. Practical action. Observe your emotions without judgment. When you feel anger or anxiety, practice becoming a neutral observer of the emotion, asking yourself, what is triggering this emotion? What belief is fueling it? Rationally challenge your emotional reactions. When feeling overwhelmed by emotions, remind yourself that these feelings are temporary and that you have the power to shift your perspective. Practice mindfulness. Engage in mindfulness exercises to help you detach from emotions and view them as temporary phenomena, rather than defining aspects of yourself. This exercise builds emotional resilience by helping you realize that emotions, while natural, are not permanent or defining. Number 4. Reframe failure as a learning opportunity. For Stoics, failure is not something to be avoided at all costs, nor is it something to be ashamed of. Instead, failure is seen as a natural part of the learning process. Both Epictetus and Seneca argued that success and failure are not opposites, but part of the same journey of self-improvement. By embracing failure, we gain valuable insights and feedback that help us grow. This mindset helps to neutralize the fear of failure. Instead of being paralyzed by the possibility of making mistakes, we come to view failure as a necessary teacher. Every time we fail, we learn something new about ourselves, about the task at hand, and about how to improve. This is especially important when combating negative thinking, as the fear of failure often drives feelings of inadequacy or self-doubt. Stoicism teaches us to adopt an attitude of curiosity and growth toward failure, rather than letting it cause us to spiral into negativity. Now, let's talk about the psychological mechanism behind this. Our modern culture tends to frame failure as a personal defeat, which can lead to shame and avoidance. However, this fear of failure is often rooted in perfectionism or a desire for external validation. Stoicism encourages us to disconnect our sense of self-worth from our results, allowing us to learn from failure without experiencing excessive emotional distress. When we reframe failure as a stepping stone rather than a setback, we shift from a fixed mindset, where failure defines us, to a growth mindset, where failure is an opportunity for improvement. Practical action. Embrace mistakes as lessons. When you fail at something, immediately ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How can I improve next time? Focus on the process, not just the outcome. Celebrate effort and growth, rather than just the result. This helps to reduce the emotional impact of failure. Journaling. After a failure, write down what went wrong and what you can do better next time. This will not only help you learn but also lessen the negative emotional charge associated with failure. By reframing failure as a learning tool, we reduce the shame and fear often tied to it and transform failure into a catalyst for growth. Number 5. Shift focus to service and contribution. The Stoics believe that true happiness is found in living virtuously and contributing to the common good. Marcus Aurelius, in particular, emphasized the importance of living in harmony with nature and focusing on others. Instead of dwelling on personal grievances or problems, Stoics direct their attention to ways they can serve others and act with integrity. When we focus too much on ourselves, our wants, desires, and complaints, we fall into a cycle of self-centeredness, which fuels negative thinking. By shifting our attention outward and focusing on how we can help others, we find greater purpose and fulfillment, which naturally decreases feelings of anxiety or negativity. Now, let's talk about the psychological mechanism behind this. Research in positive psychology shows that helping others and engaging in acts of altruism can boost our mood and reduce negative emotions. Service to others also helps us shift from a self-focused mindset to a collective one, reducing feelings of isolation that can fuel negative thinking. It provides a sense of meaning and purpose, which buffers against emotional distress. By focusing on others, we divert attention from our own struggles and find greater fulfillment. Practical action. Look for ways to serve, whether it's helping a friend, volunteering, or contributing to a cause. Focus on how you can make a positive impact on others' lives. Engage in small acts of kindness. Even a smile, a thoughtful gesture, or a kind word can shift your focus and improve your emotional state. Ask yourself regularly, how can I make someone's day a little easier or better today? This practice not only helps others, but also elevates your own emotional well-being by providing a sense of purpose and meaning. Number 6. Avoid comparisons to others. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, offer a powerful reminder that comparing ourselves to others is a significant source of negative emotions. Marcus Aurelius writes in his Meditations, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This reflects a central Stoic belief: our judgments about the external world shape our inner peace, not the external events themselves. When we compare ourselves to others, we are often engaging in an irrational judgment, which distorts our sense of reality and can lead to negative thinking such as jealousy, inadequacy, or envy. The Stoic way of thinking encourages us to stop seeing life as a competition or a race against others and instead focus on living according to our own values and standards. Seneca emphasizes that we should focus on our own virtues and progress, rather than looking outward at other successes or failures. The Stoics argue that comparison is ultimately futile because it takes us away from self-improvement and the cultivation of inner peace. The Stoic principle is that self-worth should not depend on external benchmarks or social validation, but on our own actions, character, and growth. When we compare ourselves to others, we overlook our own unique path, a path shaped by our experiences, challenges, and growth, not someone else's. To live a Stoic life is to measure ourselves by our own standards, not by what others have or do. Now, let's talk about the psychological mechanism behind this. The social comparison theory, introduced by Leon Festinger in the 1950s, shows that humans have an innate tendency to evaluate themselves by comparing to others. This is a natural psychological impulse, but it often leads to negative consequences. For example, upward comparisons, comparing ourselves to someone we perceive as better in some way, can lead to feelings of inferiority, envy, or resentment. Downward comparisons, comparing ourselves to someone perceived as worse off, can lead to feelings of false superiority, pride, or complacency. Both types of comparisons distort reality, leading to emotional volatility and unnecessary suffering. Upward comparison may fuel a sense of lack, making us feel like we're missing something, while downward comparison can prevent growth by making us complacent or ignoring areas in which we need to improve. When we adopt a Stoic mindset, we shift away from this constant cycle of comparison. Instead, we start to view life as a personal journey, where success is defined not by how we stack up against others, but by how well we develop and improve in our own capacity to live virtuously and wisely. Practical action. Shift to self-referencing. Instead of comparing yourself to others, ask, am I improving today? Am I living according to my principles? This focuses on self-development rather than external competition. Practice gratitude. Focus on what you have, not what you lack. When we practice gratitude, it shifts our focus from what others have that we desire to what we already possess, our own unique skills, relationships, and experiences. Celebrate small victories. Recognize your own progress, however small. Acknowledging your growth, even in small steps, builds a sense of accomplishment and reduces the urge to compare. Avoid social media traps. Social media amplifies comparisons, often presenting an unrealistic view of others' lives. Be mindful of how it affects your self-image and emotional state, and consider limiting time spent on these platforms if it leads to negative comparisons. By focusing on your own journey and ceasing to measure yourself against others, you will be more likely to cultivate self-acceptance and emotional stability. Number 7. Focus on what you can control. Dichotomy of control. The dichotomy of control is perhaps one of the most central and powerful ideas in Stoic philosophy. Epictetus famously said, "Some things are up to us and some things are not." This principle teaches that there are two categories of things: 1. Things within our control, our thoughts, attitudes, actions, and reactions. 2. Things outside our control, other people's actions, the future, the past, external events, and the natural world. The Stoics argue that the key to happiness and peace lies in focusing only on what we can control, our internal reactions and behaviors, and letting go of everything else. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of recognizing that external events are not the problem, our reaction to them is what causes suffering. If we focus on our own character and respond to life's challenges with wisdom and virtue, we can remain at peace no matter what is happening in the external world. A major part of this principle is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean passivity, it means recognizing the limits of what you can change and taking action only where you have influence. By embracing this, you stop wasting mental energy on things you cannot alter, and instead, devote your efforts to improving what is within your power. Now, let's talk about the psychological mechanism behind this. Psychologically, the dichotomy of control is extremely powerful in reducing anxiety and stress. When we focus on things outside our control, we often experience feelings of helplessness or frustration. These emotions arise from the natural desire to control outcomes and avoid uncertainty. This often leads to rumination, where we get stuck thinking about things we cannot change, such as past mistakes or what other people think of us. Research in cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, shows that when we focus on what we can control and let go of what we can't, it leads to a greater sense of emotional empowerment. By accepting the reality of what we cannot change and focusing on what we can influence, we reduce feelings of anxiety and stress. We regain a sense of agency, which boosts self-esteem and promotes resilience. Focusing on our own responses to events, rather than the events themselves, puts us in the driver's seat of our lives, allowing us to respond with calm and clarity rather than reacting impulsively. Practical action. Identify the controllables. When faced with a challenge, ask yourself, what can I control in this situation? How can I respond virtuously? Focusing on actionable steps puts you in control of your emotional state. Let go of what you can't control. The next time you feel anxiety or frustration about something outside your control, like another person's actions or a future event, remind yourself, this is not in my hands. I release my attachment to it. Focus on your response, realize that the only thing you truly have control over is your mindset and reaction. In stressful situations, work on maintaining a calm, reasoned response, rather than getting overwhelmed by emotions. Create an action plan, break down problems into manageable steps that are within your control. For instance, if you're stressed about an upcoming project at work, focus on planning, organizing, and taking deliberate actions, instead of worrying about the outcome or what others think. By actively focusing on what is within your control, you will reduce feelings of helplessness and fear, ultimately cultivating a sense of empowerment and peace. And there you have it, 7 Stoic principles that can help you take control of your mind and turn negative thinking into personal power. Remember, it's not the world that shapes your peace, but how you choose to respond to it. By practicing these timeless lessons, you'll not only manage stress and anxiety, but you'll also build an unshakable foundation of peace, no matter what life throws your way. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these Stoic principles resonated with you the most? How will you start applying them to overcome negative thoughts in your own life? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. I'd love to hear how these ideas are changing your mindset. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more insights on living a more focused, positive, and resilient life. And remember, your thoughts shape your reality, so take charge and start living with purpose today. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep calm, keep focused, and keep growing.